What's up, guys? This is Damon Varial from damonvarial.com. I am going to give you my top 5 stock picks for the week of March 23rd, 2015. Now, a lot of these stock picks rely on gap trading. Not all of them, but some of them do. If you're not familiar with gaps, such as this gap right here or this one right here, please go ahead and go to damonvarial.com and get my complimentary gap trading guide. You'll have a better understanding of why some of these stock picks were made. But for the rest of you, if you're not interested in gaps, there are also good stock picks of March 23rd, the week of, for you this time. Let's take a look. Here are the 5 I am advising you to opt into this week. The first is V, which we all know is Visa. Maybe you didn't know that. By the way, we're going to be using, as always, the Yahoo Finance interactive stock chart. We're going to select the candlesticks. We want to look at the candlesticks. And we're going to be using the stockta.com analysis for looking at support and resistance levels. Let's go ahead and enter V in right now. Alright, so here's Visa. Visa doesn't have any gaps. It's just a normal stock. However, we see a possible inclining trend right here. Visa looked pretty stable for the long term, for the short term, sorry, and then in last week, which followed a drop. Now, did it stabilize or is it going to bounce back? I believe it's going to bounce back, and the reason is, if you take a look, we're at 67.41. We have just bounced above a very strong level of resistance. And now that we've broken that resistance, it's very possible, because there's no real strong resistances above that, it's very possible that Visa will just continue going up. So we had a level above that support, we fell below the support, and now we've bounced above the support again. So this downward inclination was probably just a temporary trend that was a reactionary effect of being overbought at this point. So what's going to happen is probably during this week, Visa is going to bounce back up, and perhaps in the long term, it'll even rise above 70. So this is even a buy and hold stock if you're not a swing trader. That is Visa. Next one we're going to look at is KBH. KBH. I don't know of this company, but it doesn't matter. What we have here is a gap. You see how there's a difference between these two candlesticks? Big white area, that's a gap. Now, because the volume is so high, and you can tell it's high because you can compare it to the other volumes. We're not looking at pure numbers here, we're just looking at relative length of this bar. Now, we have a very high volume here, and we actually had high volumes in the past 3 days. So some news event probably happened and then was confirmed on Friday, March the 20th. Really, these fundamentals don't matter when you have a gap like this, because statistically, a gap that is outside of the trading region, you see how this candlestick is not anywhere near this range of 13 to 14, plus the high volume, means that we are probably going to have a bullish trend. Statistically, the likely movement is continually upward. So that's why I'm recommending KBH. We can take a look at the resistance if you want to, but it really doesn't matter for breakaway gaps, because breakaway gaps kind of break the rules of resistance and support. Obviously, there was some sort of level of resistance right here that was broken, and now that has become a support. When we're dealing with gaps, we don't really talk about support and resistance so much, unless we're talking about area gaps, or unless the gap is now containing that level of area of support or resistance, which is probably what happened here, but actually not. Let's see. So we have a strong support at 15.24. So we just broke a level of support. There was actually a level of resistance if you go out and look further. There you go. So we had a level of support before at that level, and now we've broken it, and we're probably back at this trend that happened around around December of 2014, something happened, news event occurred, causing the stock to drop. We were trading at a new region, but now we're probably back to where we were 6 months ago at this higher region. So this is a good stock to get into because we have now finished this short-term trend, this 2-month trend here, and now we're probably headed back toward a 17 level. So aim for that $17 price point. It's KVH, cheap stock, get into it, follow the gap. HPQ. Hewlett Packard, you probably know this, they make computers. We see a gap. This gap also looks like a breakaway gap, high volume. The candlestick is very far away from the trading region, as you can see. However, this breakaway gap, though it did fall, is now looking like it's going to bounce back. And often, when a breakaway gap bounces back, the gap fills. So when this happens, you want to set your price target to the area, you find the last candlestick, so this is not a good chart right here. That's not good either. All right, you find the last candlestick, and if you look at the upper left box, it says low. If you see that number, 38.01, that's the price target. So look at the past candlestick before the gap, find the low if it's a down gap, find the high if it's an up gap, and that's your price target. So our price target is 38 for a stock that's currently trading at 33. So that's going to be about a $5 gain with a $33 investment. So we're looking at about 15% profit if this gap fills. And gaps typically will fill within 2 weeks. So we're going to be holding on to this one a little longer than a week, but at the same time, that's for a 15% profit, which is very high. The next one is SAN, S-A-N. Another stock I've never heard of, also very cheap, also with gaps. Here we see a gap that looks like a breakaway gap, breaking away from this trading region. High volume outside of this trading region implies a breakaway gap. For the same reason I recommended KVH, I'm going to recommend this stock. But this stock might even be better because it's so cheap, more people can buy it, you can spend more money on it. We've probably broken a level of support, judging by these candlesticks. Let's take a quick look. That was SAN. For breakaway gaps, you generally want to buy in if it's broken a level of support, which it has. You see this green line? See how this last candlestick is above the green line? We've broken the 7.15 level of support. We have a breakaway gap. It's very likely that this stock is going to continue upward in the next coming weeks. Finally, INTC. Intel, you know this as well, another computer stock. Again, we have a gap. This gap is an area gap. The reason is, though the volume is large, we're not really outside of the trading region. If you look at the candlestick on March the 12th, you can see the tip. See these little wicks, these shadows? The top actually touches this top. So, though this is a gap because there's a space between the concurrent candlesticks, it's not a gap that's outside of the trading region. For this reason, you can consider this to be an area gap. An area gap statistically fill. Now we can see it's almost filled. This wick has almost touched the candlestick prior to the gap. However, it's not completely filled. And if a bounce back does occur, it often occurs in a way that more than fills the gap. It actually goes above the gap a bit. So this is a very good stock to buy into for a short-term trend. Watch it as it increases, see if it hits a level of resistance or begins to bounce back, and then sell. This is a very quick swing trade. Let's take a look at where those resistance levels might be. So the only strong resist here is this resist at 34.77. So we'll have around $3 that we can capitalize on before it hits that resist. And if we really are going to fill this area gap and the momentum continues, that means we can expect about a $3 gain on a $30 stock. So what is that? That's about a 10% profit, which is almost as good as SAN, but more in the short term, so you could realize this profit more quickly. So that is it for the top 5 stock picks of March 23rd, the week of March 23rd, 2015. I will be doing these every week, so please subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll be notified as soon as I put these videos out each week. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below.